Good evening, everybody. I am Julie Nolan, and I'm your host for a very first podcast called Open Mic, which means, well, open mic can mean a lot of things. It can be you go someplace and you see new comedians, or you see people, getting up and with their guitars and singing. This is literally anything we want to talk about. There are no rules, there are no limits. And I have a really fun guest tonight. His name is Kevin Quigley. He is a comedian here in Melrose, and we've just met, which is a sin, because I feel like I should.
Such a sin,
right? I mean, well, we're gonna make up for lost time.
We got an hour. What? How long are we doing this for?
I don't know. Do we know?
We
60 minutes.
60 minutes. Click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Tell me a little bit about yourself, considering I just met you.
Well, I started comedy. Technically, the first time I ever did it was in college when I was 19 years old at a College of the Fenway open mic. I was at Wentworth at the time. And then I basically didn't do it for another 4 years. I just kind of coasted on that rush. And then in November of 2017, I had been thinking about getting into it. I kind of been writing some stuff, and I talked to my cousin, who's a musician, and he's been doing live music since he was 10. And we both decided we'd go to an open mic together and try it. And I enjoyed it. He did not. He said he had a panic attack. So he's out. But after
he's
that,
out, you're in.
I got whatever strange bug we have that keeps us going, and I have no end in sight. So
That's
I've been 2
awesome.
years strong now.
So tell me, when with the 4 years, we say you were on that high, which I totally get. Did you also get a little stage fright or a little panic, or did you feel like you had this great performance, you don't know if you could do it again?
The video is actually still on YouTube. I was reading off notes, and it was all sort of poorly hashed together, but it was an open mic where it was a bunch of people doing very sad slam poetry. This one girl did a monologue about an abortion, and just a bunch of other sad stuff. And then I was the only person doing anything, not just comedy, but anything that was in a positive, to make people feel. So it went really well. And then that summer I was on an internship where I was in Los Angeles, and I was still 19, so I did a few open mics at this place called the Tribal Cafe, which I don't believe does open mics anymore. And that was horrific. That's what people talk about when the stereotype of open mics being
Never
bad.
do it again.
It was exceptionally bad. I honestly think that the energy at the mic I run in Southie is better, and that one can be pretty tough. I advertise it as a place to get a tougher skin.
Huh.
So.
What's it called again, to get the tougher skin?
I call the Anything Goes Wrong open mic every Tuesday at 7 p.m. in South Boston. List goes out at 6:30.
Okay.
It's at Murphy's Law, the iconic Murphy's Law as seen in Gone Baby Gone.
So, considering I just met you and I've not seen anything online, and I apologize for that, what is your humor like? Who would you say are your heroes, your idols?
I don't know if I can necessarily classify my own, especially since I'm still new enough where it's evolving. But I'd say that major influences, Mike Birbiglia, who's the first comedian I ever got into, Norm Macdonald,
Oh, yeah.
Hannibal Buress, Anthony Jeselnik, and it's probably some big. I really like Joe List, who's from Boston, but he's not quite famous yet. But maybe someday he will be. He's on Netflix though, so you can check him out.
Nice.
And then over time, when just starting in the scene, he gets influenced pretty strongly just by local people. It's actually kind of interesting to see if you travel. I traveled to San Francisco, and I got booked on a showcase there and did a few open mics there. That geographically, there's an overall difference in the way people do comedy that's very noticeable.
Really?
Yeah, I would say in Boston, it seems like there's a very high focus on technique and fast rhythm and hitting hard when you're expected to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then in San Francisco, I noticed more of a focus on honesty and poignancy, vulnerability, those more, I guess we'd say, human aspects.
Huh. So do you feel like your humor works better here? Is that what you're saying, or? Hopefully eventually would work anywhere, but I didn't know that. I didn't realize there was a different sort of vibe.
I'm talking about more the comedians than the audiences. I had one particular time in San Francisco where I did an open mic, but I had been drinking on a mostly empty stomach all day, and I did
I want to hear more about this.
horrible. They didn't like me at all. It was really bad. I like showed up to the mic like 5 minutes after the list allegedly was going out, but I should have known just from back here that it always goes out like a solid half hour before they actually say. So I was like 30th on the list, and we had already started drinking, and then by the time I actually went up, I was pretty in the bag, and they were in a bad mood. And at the time, I was doing a lot of like Jezelnik style stuff, which I've cut out a lot of, trying to be a little bit more honest in general, without being like a one-man show sob story or anything
Right.
like that. But yeah, they hated me.
So
I
just-
made some joke about the Catholic priest sexual abuse scandal, and this one guy yells, "Jesus Christ!" And I was like, he was implicated, and they didn't think that was funny either.
I think it's funny.
I'm pretty sure I got lit earlier than the actual time that I was supposed to get to, because they were just like, "Get this guy the fuck off."
Just to clarify for people that are not in comedy, the open mic night scenario is not as open as you think it is. You know, if there's an open mic night at Giggles or Kowloon or wherever, you're not walking in and getting on, and that's why he's talking
Have
about
they
the
ever
list.
had an open mic night at Giggles or Kowloon?
I
Within the past
I did
20
my-
years, at least?
I did my first open mic night at Giggles in 2015. They don't do it often.
Oh, okay.
But to your point, like I had to, you know, kind of introduce myself, and then other people had to kind of vouch for me. Like you can't. It sounds like you're just gonna walk in and, you know, have some drinks with your friends, and then look at your friends and go, "Okay, I'm going up." But it doesn't work that way, right? Because you
No,
know.
I mean that's generally exactly how it works. I've never gone to the Kowloon or heard of them having an open mic night there. Maybe they don't promote it well, but I'll have to keep my ears open because that sounds like a good opportunity.
Well, like Laugh Boston, I did an open mic night at Laugh Boston, and you know, that was, they definitely had to know who I was beforehand. I was not just walking in. Maybe in California, you just walk in and go up. I don't know.
No, here I mean like Sally O'Brien's, the 7:30 Tavern, my mic at Murphy's Law.
All those are
Thunder
open?
Bar,
Oh, good.
Pretty much all of them are open.
Okay.
It's not. It's usually a false advertising to claim that it's an open mic and actually book it ahead of time. Although Improv Boston, they just closed theirs permanently due to I guess political correctness concerns. I don't know how to put it.
Oh, boy.
Theirs would be like you had to show up at 6:30 and then you put your name on the list and it was a lottery. And it was very, the sign up process was so confusing that I ended up just never doing the mic. Because as soon as I heard like you got to show up and then leave and then come back, I was like, oh, that's too much.
Yeah, that's
I
forget
can't-
it.
I have no idea. What
I'm
you're
just
talking
leaving.
about.
Do you have any desire to do comedy writing for like sitcoms or anything? Like, what are some of the things you dream about?
Well, I actually this summer sent a packet into Saturday Night Live. They were doing relatively rare open submissions to the public. It was a little sneaky because it wasn't. If you Googled like Saturday Night Live writing submission or whatever, it wouldn't even come up in Google. So it seems like in this day and age, it was a deliberate decision not to search engine optimize their own site. But people were sharing the link through the comedians groups, and I called their office, and the woman at the secretary was much more polite than I would have imagined. She was like, "Yep, that link is real. Okay, have a great day." I thought she'd be like all like fast and loose. This is TV, baby. I gotta get you off the phone. But no, she was super polite. I forget her name.
That was great.
So yeah, it was one of those things where I bet thousands of people, maybe 8,000. I don't know how the lack of publicity, because it wasn't quite the Willy Wonka golden ticket type.
But it had
they
that
kept
feel.
Well, my friend told me that in these situations of sort of design where everyone who's represented by a manager, agent, whatever, gets that link, like
Yeah.
they send that to all the agencies and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that would end up meaning like thousands of people probably applied. Plus the
Totally.
people who like got it through Facebook.
Do you have an agent?
No.
I don't either.
No, I think I'm a long time away from getting that, especially not for writing. So the only real writing sample I have that's like designed for television is that packet, which is about 22 pages long. From what I've read, you need to have 2 to 3 basically flawless samples, and then you just kind of spam around writing cover letters to like hundreds of agents until one of them connects with
I
you.
kind of feel like, I mean, is it a way to protect yourself? Because I feel like, you know, what if you write something really funny and then 6 months later you see it on Saturday Night Live and they're getting credit for it?
Oh, it's funny you'd ask that. The release form when you're sending this packet in is basically like I sign away all my rights, and there's nothing you can.
I'm telling you, why are we in this business?
You basically have to make a leap of good faith at that point, where
Yeah.
it's like if they actually like what I've written, and especially in the case where Saturday Night Live itself has a specific reputation for discovering new talent, especially with their players, but also with their writers, and they see that I'm unrepresented and that I'm young, then maybe they'll be like, oh, well, let's at least talk to this guy. Let's put him up in the Merchant, the whatever that fancy hotel in Manhattan that begins with the letter M near Times Square. I forget what it's called. The Meridian.
The Meridian.
Yeah, put me up in the Meridian for a night. And,
There you go.
Interview me.
You are young. I mean, you were talking about being 19. I mean, how old are you? I probably should do the
25.
math. Oh, 25. Oh, so young. So do you do anything else?
I'm actually a software engineer by day. So,
Aha.
I can work from home a lot, which makes it easy when I sometimes am not getting home till late with all the stuff.
All the stuff that you're
Yeah.
doing.
Or just if I get home at like 11, I still need time to unwind. I don't go to bed till late, or I have to drive down to the Cape in the middle of the week, or blah, 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 blah. So that's...
How many nights a week are you out doing comedy?
On a good week, like 5.
Wow.
On what I would consider a bad week, a very bad week would be 2. Average would be 3 to 4. But
That's great.
it's hard to... You got to kind of keep... Or it atrophies if you go too long.
So if you have a week with 5 shows, do you basically have like the core being the same and then you just like switch it up a little bit, the front and the back? Or like what is your process?
That depends kind of contextually, because, for instance, if I was doing a show where I had to, ask a bunch of times to get on, and it's my first time doing something, or it's somewhat important, yada, 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 then that's kind of a greatest hits situation, which is a fairly, if I'm only doing 5, that's a fairly down pat thing that I've had for a little bit. It's always kind of changing a teeny bit. Largely
You
the
mean
same.
5 minute?
Yeah.
You got that down? Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
But then if I'm hosting, or if especially at open mics, I'm always like writing stuff that I want to try. And sometimes I'll write stuff that is like completely, whatever I write down physically, if anything, is not very grounded in the English language. So I'll have to do like...
Symbols.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like Charlie from Always Sunny, how his song lyrics are just weird hieroglyphics. So I'll have to do multiple runs of that at open mics before it's ready for, civilian ears. Like I have a bit about the 4 corners, which I've worked on for a while, and then it ended up becoming about several monuments, and it's just kind of like one thing on the subject, and it's about 6 total minutes long, which is sad because I don't have that much of an opportunity to feel comfortable working on it, since the thing itself is 6 minutes long, and that's not even... that you can't generally get longer than 5 at an open mic.
Right.
So the only time it's done very well in some form, and it's evolving because it needs to be all punched up, is when I was doing a 15-minute set at the Point near Haymarket, the historic district.
Nice.
And I had 15 minutes, so I opened with a bunch of more tried and true stuff, and then I just went into this chaotic rant about monuments. Great part about that monuments rant is it's basically totally clean. I think I curse, but I could omit the curses and it would be totally clean, because it's just about how dumb the 4 corners is as just like a thing to celebrate in general. We didn't build anything. It's not... There was no war. There's no battle of the 4 corners. It's just, the way lines were drawn. And then I go into like other monuments comparing it, and so I did it perfectly in the middle of the set where I still had it, in case it failed miserably.
You had
I
something to
time
go to.
take it back. But then it ended up going pretty well. There were definitely some dry spots where it didn't connect, because those were spots that I hadn't really focused on tightening up and having a good flow of ideas. But
No, I say to people all the time, I mean, it's not a speech, and it's you're live, and you've got a different audience every time you're throwing these jokes out. So, I did an event, and it was St. Patrick's Day, and I'm 100% Irish. It was in Lent, and I have a lot of Catholic jokes and stuff like that. And just, I don't know, that crowd just didn't really receive it very well. And I had to switch it up. You got to switch it up.
where was this at?
It was at Rosaria's. It's
Rosaria.
a restaurant. And so what they did was you had your choice of a boiled dinner or an Italian meal, and so I was the headliner there, and I had like Irish step dancers come first, and I did a whole show, and I was like, this is gonna kill. I'm so excited for it. And then, but I do think not doing well does bring on a lot of character. I mean, I still laugh about it now because it was just so awful.
Oh, you have to do poorly.
Yeah.
It's like you live your entire life and no one ever tells you you're wrong.
As a
and you never
comedian,
correct
you're told
yourself.
you're wrong very quickly, don't you think?
Yeah, well, in normal social situations, it's rare, unless it's something egregiously bad, that someone will, pull you aside and tell you you're doing something wrong so you can correct course and give you that opportunity. And it's because it makes people uncomfortable to do that and blah, 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 blah. Whereas in this specifically, if you do poorly, there's no sugarcoating it. Like, people might come up to you and be like, good set. And I'll be like, no. Like, I was there. I don't know. He's like, oh, well, I was in the back. So there were some people in the back laughing. And I was like, well, it wasn't contagious. They weren't laughing loud enough for me to hear it from where I was standing.
I
guess.
couldn't agree with you more. I mean, people could tell you left, right, and center how fantastic you were, but when you've done well and when you haven't. And I also like the idea, and I agree with it. If you got a good audience and you're really connecting and you have some material that you feel solid about, and you just, you're going, and then you dip into something new because you kind of feel like it's okay. You're in a safe place, and and if it doesn't work, then like you said, you kind of go back to some of the other tried and true.
They won't fully forget that they liked you. So they'll be willing to hang on. And when you think about it, people that I associate with, like, I'll listen to this person talk at length to see where they're going on a longer thing, like Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, George Carlin, probably other examples, like Norm Macdonald. When they were starting, they were also trying to just like cram as many laughs as they could into 5 minutes, because that's how you get on TV. That's how you get noticed, and blah, blah, blah. So they had to go through the same hoops that we went through. And then for their longer, more, deviant stuff, now they have a platform. They have an audience, too, which probably helps, because they don't have to worry about, just random deaf ears hearing what they want to say. It's like people who are interested in what they're about to say.
Right. You have a good following here, though, in Melrose. You know that, right?
Well, ticket sales aren't reflecting that currently, but I'm hoping
let's
that
talk
will
about
change.
that. Well, okay, so we're just rolling right into this. So this is a comedy show that you've done before, right? You did it in the spring?
We did it I think it was April 26th of this year.
Okay.
And it was a lot of fun. It
I
was
heard.
a lot of stress. I'm surprised I got through it without the gray hairs. And it's this thing where I'm producing it, and I'm basically paying for everyone, obviously promising a payroll to all the performers and stuff of that nature. So then...
Is it a fundraiser?
No,
it's just a
I
show.
talked
Okay.
to charities, local charities, and after like 3 of them said no, I was just like, all right, I'm going to wait for a charity to come to me that like wants to work with me. I'll just keep doing this. Because I'd be perfectly willing to partner with a charity and then, split half the take home or whatever, and have them help me get all the tickets sold, because that's definitely the hardest overall part.
The tickets.
Yeah.
Well, part of it too is people wait till last minute. Like, there's so many people that are coming, but they just haven't bought
and
their ticket.
that's what I noticed. It's just for planning purposes, obviously way easier for people to buy on Eventbrite. But then I think we went from like, in the last less than 48 hours, we went from like 70 sold to over 100 sold.
Yeah.
But I spent most of the,
Festering.
3 or 4 weeks being like, I
might have to cancel.
It's not just about losing money, which sucks itself. It's about if these comics who, are trusting me come out there and we're in this giant hall and there's only blah, blah, blah people there, then it's going to just be a weird show. Like when you get a room the size of the hall, which is the Knights of Columbus in
That's
Melrose,
a big room.
It's the energy will be very thrown off if it's not filled up. So.
Well, tell me about April 26th, because I heard it was great. I heard it was full and it was funny and it was a great night.
Oh, it went even better than I could have possibly expected.
So people know the name. What's it called again?
Melrose Comedy Event, easy to remember.
Melrose Comedy Event. And who did you have as a lineup last April, and who do you have coming up?
Okay, so last April we had, opening up the show, we had Shyam Subramanian, Stoneham's Own. We had, and then after that was Tyler Swain, from somewhere in the South Shore, I don't know. Then we had probably one of my best friends in this whole scene, Big D. people who liked him really liked him. People who did not like him very much didn't like him. It was sort of a social experiment.
mixed.
He's a big black guy from the hood, and he makes me laugh, and I'm from here, so I figured I'd see what would happen. And
Well, diversity is always a good thing.
so then after him, we had the young gun prodigy, Sam Rossi.
Oh, yeah.
So now this was funny. So the only clip of him available was just when he went on the TC Rastani show here on MMTV, and he didn't really do stand-up.
Yeah.
He just got like strong-armed into telling some of his jokes.
Yeah.
And since he is fairly new, he didn't say no, which is what most comedians would do in that situation.
Yeah.
So he does some of it. So that was basically all I knew of him. And when he was going on, he was really killing, but I had told him 5 minutes, and then I think one of the other performers said, like, this kid's killing. I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm even going to show him the warning light, because, you do the warning light at 1 minute.
Yeah.
And then I didn't show him the warning light, but he still closed it exactly 5 minutes, I think.
Love
precise to the second. So
Love it.
He
Yeah.
must he must practice so much that he has that very professional keeping your own time quality.
He's out every week doing stand-up. I just hosted the Victorian Fair and interviewed him. And I've interviewed him before, but he's fascinating. I mean, he's only 16 years old. I mean, it's just...
And he's clean, which is big for the marketability standpoint.
Yeah. Are you clean?
No, not really. I'm increasingly more clean. But
Okay.
there will never be a time when I don't want... Because the world is not clean. And I want to talk about the world.
Yeah.
I'm not clean, and I want to talk about myself. Plus, those people who are clean end up being
You bathe,
absolute
right?
psychopaths. Yeah, I bathe.
Just
Maybe
checking.
not necessarily this morning, but...
Okay, well. At some point.
Yes, at some points I've been known to bathe. When you find out these people who are clean oftentimes are complete psychos. Bill Cosby probably being the most famous example.
Yeah, that's true.
So then after he got off, and he got I think he might have got a partial standing ovation.
Yeah.
It was just...
He's so dry. He's very Stephen Wright.
People kind of already I think, the fact that he's a student at the high school in
Mm-hmm.
the town. We have a small town pride, and that's just throughout the Boston area. Every small town has pride to their own town. So people
Totally.
already kind of like that, and they were, really eager. And then he ended up being very professional and just awesome.
Yeah.
So that was just exceeded all expectations.
Yeah.
And then we brought on Janet McNamara as the featured act, and she was. I had a lot of people tell me that she was their favorite of the night.
Nice.
She went on for 20 minutes, and then we brought on our headliner, Laura Severse, who was, as I said when I introduced her, she was the first comedian I actually saw in Boston. I was on a second date before I had started doing comedy for real, and she was the host at Nick's Comedy Stop. Dan Smith was the headliner. And so, yeah, she came out and she did her hosting shtick, told some jokes, and technically became the first comedian I ever saw.
That's
in Boston.
awesome.
And I knew right away, because she has what I always like to try to do is get it's only 2 times, but I like to get the headliner.
That's what I like to do all the time.
I want the headliner to be someone who's probably more relatable to the family crowd of Melrose. So she has a lot of jokes about being married and having kids, and stuff about working a job that she doesn't care for, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty relatable.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great headliners who are in their 20s and 30s, which, are great, but are still single, don't have children, have jokes about masturbating and smoking pot and all that, which is some of these people, they're kind of past that. They want something they can relate to.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. This show we have...
Can't wait to see where we're going after this.
This show we got Mike Dorval in the headliner spot. And
Okay.
I'm very excited about that. I actually had asked him to do the previous one, but he wasn't available, so I went with Laura. And he is just fantastic. He's been doing comedy, I think, significantly over 10 years. He hosts at the Comedy Studio all the time. Performed at Nick's, performed at Laugh,
Nice.
performed everywhere in New England, from some random back alley joint to the biggest clubs in Boston. And
That's
he's
inspiring.
Just an all-time titan, and he's a big family man. And he's just hilarious. You could tell him to go on for 40 minutes and don't do any of your material, and he'd still crush it.
Hey, now, considering this is open mic and I can ask anything, how is your dating career?
It's hit and miss, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I quit drinking a few months ago, so now it's so that kind of throws off the entire ecosystem of going on apps and finding girls to go out with, because you need alcohol in those. Some people might say like, well, Kevin, do you really need alcohol all the day? And it's like, yeah, I don't know what kind of fantasy land you're.
Yeah.
So yeah, now
Yeah.
I just gotta like stumble through life and meet someone organically.
Okay, well that sounds good. How are you doing? Is it like brutal not drinking or?
No, it's actually not as bad as I thought it would be.
Okay.
They make craft non-alcoholic beer now, which helps you get through a nice summer day.
Nice. Nice. Well, I'm proud of you.
I still have a pretty bad nicotine addiction and smoke pot pretty regularly. But
That's what I love about this show.
one thing at a time.
I mean, we're just getting it all about Kevin. We know everything about Kevin.
I don't think I admitted to doing anything illegal, though.
Not yet.
No, not yet. True. You could get me.
You didn't kill anybody or anything, have you?
No, no.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's excellent. So what else? What else are we going to talk about?
Is the rest of the
the
who
list.
we got
Sorry.
coming
Yep.
on. Okay, so we have in our opening chair we got Josh Filipowski. He's a fantastic guy, about 20 years of experience. He's done comedy in L.A., New York, blah blah blah, and he runs the show at The Point. He used to run the show at John Harvard's, which was my favorite place to do comedy in all of this area. But then the bar closed after like 25 years, which was sad.
Oh, that's sad.
So we lost that room. Then we got Joey Cricky. He's recently moved to Boston from L.A., and he's worked all of those famous rooms out there.
Nice.
The Comedy Store, blah, blah, blah. We got the kid coming back, of course.
Of course. It's October 5th, right?
October 5th. And I'll say it now, melrosecomedyevent.com. Very easy to remember.
melrosecomedyevent.com. It's going to be a great night. How much are the tickets?
$15 online, $20 at the door.
That's nothing. That's great.
It's very cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
At times I've thought about increasing the ticket prices. Well, we can't do it now because it's already in the works, but increasing the ticket prices and then having like a buffet. And then I just think like procedurally, I don't even know how this would work. And it sounds like too many variables. I don't want to do that.
Well, it's easier if you do it in a restaurant because I've done it at J.J. Grimsby's. I've done it at Turner's in Salem. And basically what you do is, if you have a charity, which makes it even easier, they do their work and you do your work, in terms of they'll figure out the menu, and then you figure out the ticket price. But, you can get ticket prices like $60, $50, $60 because you're including a meal.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. I know some places like the VFW said they'd done comedy shows where they had a buffet in, but it was... Yeah, we won't do it. I buy some chips and I put little snacks on the table. People go crazy for the fact that there's little munchies.
To tell you the truth, and obviously you can't change the price now, which is great. I mean, so many things are expensive. I mean, there's so many great restaurants here in Melrose. Like, I'm sure the majority of your people back in April went to Turner's or Giacomo's or where, and then came and was happy. They didn't even need the snacks. They just wanted the entertainment.
Oh, quite possibly.
So I think you've got a good thing going is what I'm saying. You might want to connect with a restaurant later on for a different kind of event, but this sounds fun.
Yeah. I think also part of me, if I made the ticket prices higher and people were still willing to buy them, then I would get cocky because the way they are now guarantees that like breaking even and filling up the room sufficiently are about the same. And then, filling up the room a little bit more than half, I think is like how you break even. And then there's like a little bit of gravy if we actually sell out. And I don't want to be not inspired to fill that room and have a kick-ass show because then the comics are going to go home being like, that was weird. I'm never going to work with that guy again because that was weird and blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the goal is to have that great feeling where you almost don't need anybody else in the audience to tell you that you killed it because you did because you feel it.
Nah.
You've connected. So
Plus, we have raw footage courtesy of MMTV.
ha ha.
Yeah. So that was a nice touch. Dave actually came up to me at the last minute at the first show. Not the last minute, but a few days before. Volunteered, and I said, yeah, just make sure that they're okay with the IP aspect of this. All the comics were like, sure, whatever. I don't think anyone's going to find me on the Melrose TV as long as it's not on YouTube. And they all got good footage.
That's awesome.
The ones who did well, at least. Back to so we have Michelle Swee, who is a regular in the Women in Comedy Festival, and she was came in third place in the funniest person in Massachusetts.
Good for
competition.
her.
Yes.
What's her name again?
Michelle Swee.
Michelle Swee.
She's from
check her out.
somewhere in China.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a big place. I don't know all the towns. I don't know all the towns in Massachusetts, to be honest.
Yeah. That's okay.
And then our featured act is Kathy Ferris, who is actually a teacher at Improv Boston, stand-up teacher,
Nice.
and she's also regular in the Woman in Comedy Festival, headlines, Nick's Comedy Stop, all sorts of great credits, and then, of course,
Wow,
again, our
fancy.
headliner is Mike Dorval. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about this lineup. I feel like we got some real heavy hitters where we're about to real knock it out of the park.
Yeah. What are you doing in terms of advertising? Are you putting it on Facebook, obviously?
There is Facebook.
You going to put it in the Free Press or the Melrose Patch or anything like that?
Yeah, I think sometime tomorrow. I just got all the info. I had a woman, a local named Amy Swan, who's very involved with local charities and events. So she actually helped me a lot with the first one. So she got me on the Bill Butler podcast. I don't know if you know him. His office is down the street, and we filmed it right in front of the Knights of Columbus with the logo. So I got a little clip on his, or we went Facebook Live, and I think that drove some traffic. We printed out flyers and threw them in all the
Wait a minute, you talking about
businesses.
Melrose Scoop? You talking about Bill Butler?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I
So
do know
yes,
him.
okay.
Yes.
You do. Okay. And then we got the mayor's blog, which led to a
Yeah.
very funny anecdote. I'll circle back to that later. And then it was in Patch as well. So
Oh, good for you.
all that stuff helped
And of
out
course, this
significantly.
podcast is going to kick it right into high gear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, free speech. Free speech. That's what the people want. They're clamoring for it.
All right, this is, again, we're open mic. We're going to go all over the place. I have something I want to talk about, and I want your opinion, and then we can move on to whatever else you want to talk about. But I was in the grocery store yesterday, and I saw, and I think this is new now. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm not up to date, but blueberry Cheerios. What's wrong with the regular Cheerio?
Did they have, like, speckles of blueberry within the Cheerio?
It's a great question. No, they're actually blue. They're blue circles. And I just feel like the whole idea of the Cheerio is the fact that it's actually somewhat healthy. It's not, it's kind of bland, but it's bland for a reason. I mean, why not put real blueberries on the Cheerios?
That's what I do. Well, I buy Life, but the
Oh,
same,
I
same
love
idea.
that cereal.
Same idea. Actually, I am a hypocrite, though, because I buy the Strawberry Life, and I put
Okay,
blueberries
there we go.
on it.
Well,
Well,
at
the
least you put-
Strawberry Life was on sale. The regular Life wasn't on sale. That was
I'll give you that. I'll let that one slide. But I just feel like, did you know that sugary cereals were not allowed in like England and things like that when I was a kid? So it's like we know that these things are like crazy sugary, and now we're taking a Cheerio and making it a blue sugary circle.
I feel like that's not that recent of a thing, but I don't know if it's some sort of like inherent bias where now I'm picturing it and it feels like something I already saw. I feel
You
like
already bought.
it's
Did you
better-
already-
No, I have never purchased the blue, but I feel like they may or may not have been around.
The only reason why I think you may be right is I think they were on sale, and that's why they were like so visible in the store. And I had never seen it before, and I was like, that's horrifying. But
The recency bias.
yes,
That's when you see something and you assume it's a recent thing.
that's cool.
So something about what about Honey Nut Cheerios? Those have sugar in them, and those have been a staple of the breakfast cereal for quite some time.
I guess I really put that in a whole different category. I just think like the Cheerio, I grew up with them and they're fantastic with milk. Yes, they're a little bland, but I don't know. I don't mess with, when they mess with stuff and then they put like cookies. Now they got they got Oreos with, right? They're kind of going crazy with the Oreos. Like now they're mint chocolate
I gotta
chip.
be honest,
and,
I'm not a sweets guy really at all.
except for Life, the sugary strawberry Life cereal.
Well, I don't think the sugary Life. I don't think Life is particularly sugary. It might be. I might be wrong. It might be camouflaged. But
Keep dreaming, kid.
I'm more of a savory guy in general, and as a result, I have not kept up on the evolution of candy and things like Oreos.
Okay.
One time, someone told me they were like in a cannoli eating contest, and I was like, the type of cannoli with frosting, and they were like, yes, that's the only type. I didn't know, because the cannoli eating contest, it seemed weird. I thought maybe they put, like, I don't know, bangers inside the wrap or something. I didn't.
That's a sausage, right?
Well, a sausage with a cannoli wrap.
Exactly.
I don't
You
know.
don't see
I've
that
heard
every
of a
day.
hot dog eating contest. I was just kind of visualizing that.
True story. I was a judge for a hot dog eating contest at the Eddie Edelman Hot Dog Safari in 1993 3, and it's really hard to watch.
Oh, really? I was at the hot dog safari in the early 2000s.
You were?
Yeah, I at Suffolk Downs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my uncle and my dad took me because they wanted to drink and gamble, and they like sold it to me on hot dogs. I didn't. I heard hot dogs.
You must have been little.
Yeah, even as a child, I was probably 9. Even as a child, I was suspicious of an event called the hot dog safari because it.
Fair enough.
Even to my like fantastical child brain, it still sounded like a fake thing. And when we got there, I was like, "Oh, is the horses? I get it. This is really about the horses and the." It's kind of a parenthetical hot dog thing going on.
Yeah, it started at it started at a restaurant on Route 1, and then it went to the Palace, which is now, I don't know what it is.
Was that in Somerville?
No, the Palace is on Route 99 in Malden.
Oh, okay.
But it's gone, but I don't know if it was replaced or if it was just knocked down. But you got a point. When it was at the Palace, it really was just focused on the hot dogs and the event. But then when it went to Suffolk Downs, it's like anything goes. I mean, it was just complete chaos.
When did they stop doing horses at Suffolk Downs?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It was at some point during my lifetime. I know that much.
Yeah. I want to say like 10 years ago, maybe more.
That could be right. Because it would have been more. Well, it would have been about 15 years ago, if not more, that I was at the hot dog safari. I was like 9.
So what do you have for family? Do you have siblings?
I have one sibling, older sister. She lives right over by Leechmere Station.
Nice.
And she's a data visualization expert or something. She's actually tried stand-up twice, and she lies and says she doesn't have the time to actually do it more regularly. I know for a fact she watches several hours of Housewives a day, so that's a silly thing for her to assert.
Her time on.
Yeah.
Rather than writing her own comedy.
Yeah, plus, like, she doesn't have much compunction about hanging out at bars in the middle of the week, so I don't know why she can't go to open mics.
I don't either.
She just
sounds like
doesn't
fun.
want to.
I think I want to meet her.
Oh, yeah, she's great. She's got a lot of energy. And my parents, we grew up right by the Roosevelt School, actually. And,
Okay, you just answered my next question.
Yeah, they sold the house in January, and now they live right by the Galvin Middle School in Wakefield. So they did betray the cause, but
Wow.
most of our neighborhood sort of upped around the same time. There was our next door neighbors. They unloaded, and my mom and dad, and then the people across the street from us. I think the only people in our neighborhood who are probably going to stick around are the famous Applegate family.
Okay.
Because, it's, prices are going high. It's very tempting, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So you live in Melrose or you live in Wakefield?
I live in Somerville.
You live in Somerville.
I can't live with my parents. They downsized to a small condo.
They did that on purpose.
The kids were out of the nest. And I don't know how the heck we're going to do Christmas morning. There's only one guest room. And
Why don't you have it at your sister's place?
well, there's nowhere for us to stay at my sister's place.
Oh.
There's no way. I think we could just have to do away with the entire overnight aspect of Christmas Eve into Christmas morning.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know
Because
if
that's
there's
so
room.
fun with the jammies.
Well, there's only one guest room, and I guess one of us could sleep on the couch. But then there's no stairs to come
What
down.
about a blow-up bed, like with a blow-up mattress?
Me and my sister are most definitely not going to sleep in the same room. It's just not.
That's weird.
Neither of us would agree to that policy. We used to go on vacations, and she would freak out extensively about the idea of like when we were kids. I was like 10 and she was 13. She would cause a whole fit about being in a hotel room with the rest of the family.
Oh, yeah. My son does that. He's like, we're going to get a separate room for me, right? I'm like, yeah, no, we're not.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration, but now as a person who's paid for stuff with real money, I understand why that was absolutely never going to happen. So,
Right.
but
Right.
I don't know. One time it was pretty fucked up. We got a suite at the Embassy Suites when we visited Washington, D.C., and I was 12 and she was 15. And it was like a 2-queen bed, and then this suite had like a separate room with a pullout. And then it was decided that she got the entire separate room with the pullout.
Oh.
There's really no way to slice it that was fair, but
I don't think you're over it.
well, the thing is, when she complained about stuff, she would like scream, and when I complained about stuff, I would just be like annoying. Mm-hmm. And then she had like a trump card. Oof. She had like the teenage girl peak hormone scream.
Yeah. Everyone wanted her in a different room. Go.
I got back at her though, because even though she was in a different room, I could hear her loudly talking to her then boyfriend on the phone. So at one point, I took her phone and I turned it off so it could not be called, and then put it in between cushions in the couch. Or I think I put it in between the mattress and like the box spring in the
You
hotel
showed her.
bed. And then I just allowed her to, freak out,
Lose her mind.
My parents started looking for it. They had no idea what it was. And I just allowed that to happen for about 20 minutes and then fessed up.
Okay, I like it. All right, so let's go back. So you went to Roosevelt Grammar School?
I did. The Roosevelt Elementary School. I went to the old Roosevelt's for a year and a half-ish, and Franklin Roosevelt's for the rest of first grade and second grade, and then back in the new one.
Ooh.
I experienced 2 school demolitions during my short Melrose public school career. There's the
short?
Roosevelt's and, I went to Malden Catholic.
Nice.
I guess
Catholic
that wasn't that
boy.
short. It was still like 8 years. Or 9. But, so I was at started at the Roosevelt. It got destroyed. Dave was there. Or maybe, were you like a late edition via the BB?
I left when the BB was closing.
Yes,
Came
yes.
back in 3rd grade.
Okay. So there was the old Roosevelt, and then it got destroyed, and then we had to go to Franklin for a while, and then we started again at the new Roosevelt, and then half of the kids from the BB, including Dave, came over. And then by the time we got to middle school, the middle school was also destroyed.
Oh, jeez.
So we had to go back to the BB.
Oh, no.
And then the Franklin for 7th grade, and then back into and then by the time we were in 8th grade, it was open.
No wonder you're a crazy comedian. You've been going all over the place.
I don't know. I mean, there were like 40 other kids who had the exact same trajectory that I did, and they seemed fine.
It's just you then.
No, I mean, he's a little out there. He's got this Freedom of Speech podcast. Who knows?
Yeah. And we should mention that's David Galini, the executive producer of Open Mic. There he is.
Executive producer and cinematographer for the Melrose comedy event.
Yes. I'm going to try to come to that.
Oh, you should come.
Yeah,
Come on in.
definitely.
Rub shoulders with the greats.
I'll try to keep my mouth shut.
Are you gonna heckle?
I might. No,
You-
I'm not a heckler.
I was
I'm
gonna
kidding.
say that's just a overall bad strategy for another comic to heckle.
Yeah. Well, they don't know me, but that's all right. But you do, so
When I first
cat's out of the bag.
When I first started, I would get far too drunk at open mics and be too talkative. I'm glad that those days are behind me, and most people who were involved have forgotten.
What was your drink of choice back in the day?
Yes, back in the day, the distant land of May.
Yeah.
Nothing specific. Like if I was at like a shitty bar where like you couldn't actually get like a cocktail, I would get a 7 and 7.
Ooh,
Just because it would.
that's like a drink from. That's like it's somebody in their 70s would order. Did you see what I did there? 7 and 7. 70s?
7 and 7, the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I used to get the thing that everyone was doing when I turned 21 was getting whiskey sours.
Really?
And then I outgrew those eventually. And that's like my grandmother has all these whiskey sour related stories.
Yeah.
But then 7 and 7 is like, it's like all the fun of a whiskey sour without the excessive sour juice.
Yes.
But it still has the lemon lime cadence of Sprite.
Okay.
And
yeah.
also, it was just worth it for the rigmarole of saying I'll have a 7 and 7. They're like, we don't have 7 Up or Seagram 7, and I was like, there's no way I would be able to tell if you use Sprite and some other, alternative.
How easygoing of you.
Yeah, and it's like this is the bell in hand. I didn't expect you to have the finest. First of all, no one has 7 Up, so that's just a ridiculous expectation.
That's
in the first
true,
place.
isn't it? I wonder why.
Yeah, more people have Seagram 7 than 7 Up. Probably just like if you go across the board.
But that's interesting because Sprite has really like kicked 7-Up's ass.
When was the last time you saw Mellow Yellow?
When I was on swim team at Melrose YMCA.
So at least the Pepsi Corporation has that one major win over the Coca-Cola Corporation, where
Yeah.
the Mellow Yellow was beaten down to a pulp by Mountain Dew.
Oh my
Speaking
goodness.
of flavored things, they're
Yes.
gonna ban flavored vapes.
Yes, let's talk about that. Do you
This
vape?
is I have a Juul. I'm trying to quit. It's not a super hands-on quitting process. It'll happen eventually.
Well, you
or
can't
I'll
quit
die.
everything at once.
It's true. It's true. It's hard. I did last October. I stopped smoking, drinking, and smoking pot for 30 days straight, all at once.
Holy moly! Did you lose like 15 pounds?
No, I gained a lot of weight because I was never hungover. And
Good
because
point.
also when you quit smoking nicotine, you gain weight really fast.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
So I gained a significant amount of weight actually. But like I can afford it. I actually lost weight due to just like poor eating habits. So I gotta get back online.
You're sort of a naturally thin kind of guy.
Yeah, well, I tell people like I lost 20 pounds, but I can't tone it where they like realize that it's supposed to be a bad thing. They're like, "Oh, good for you." I was like, "No, I'm in a terrible BMI right now. This is not good. I'm almost 6'1", and it should not be in the 150 range." Oh yeah, so the flavored vapes. This is a weird rhetorical thing because there are no unflavored vapes.
Interesting.
There are tobacco flavored vapes, but that is a flavor.
So,
And they suck. Also, they're just terrible. Like
in other words, they're getting rid of them.
yeah, I think they're just banning them. Like
So they're
maybe
just doing it in a different kind of cleverly.
Maybe they're banning everything except for the tobacco flavor, which is considered non-flavored. But that's pretty ridiculous because that's a bunch of chemical juice. It doesn't naturally taste like tobacco. It's definitely tobacco flavored.
Wouldn't you rather smoke a regular cigarette?
If I had to choose between the tobacco flavored Juul or just going back to smoking, I would most definitely choose smoking.
Okay. Okay. But you don't smoke cigarettes anymore.
I will bum one occasionally, but
Okay.
I got a half marathon coming up in a few weeks. So
Ooh.
the week after the Melrose comedy event, I'm running the BAA half.
Cut it out.
So yeah.
Well, when are you running? In the morning?
No, generally just sometimes after work, sometimes on the weekends.
Okay.
I kind of been slacking, but I need to pull it out. A half is not something that I need to go over the top for. So,
Okay.
I'll run. I'll probably run like 10 at some point during the week before, and then run like 3 or 4 the day before, and then I'll be ready to go.
So were you on track and stuff like that in high school?
I was on cross country.
Okay.
And I swam. But during like my college years, I didn't really run much, and then I got back into it more as an adult.
Good for you.
But I could always afford to be more consistent. It's kind of hard because I work, and then I'll go to comedy, and then it's just like there's no way I'm squeezing a run in here.
Right. Right.
And sometimes it'll be like I'll do like the in between, but other times it's like I need to get there right away to put my name on the list. and no time for a run.
Right.
I've put my name on the list and gone for a run and got back from the run before I had to go up. It is risky business, but I've pulled it off a few times.
So that's an adrenaline rush right there. Got to get back.
Well, sometimes it's like if you're 35th on the list, then you're pretty certain you have like at least an hour and a half to spare.
Now, I always think that it's a good thing when you're towards the end of the list for open mic. What do you think? Like, I want to say for giggles, I was number 12 out of 15. And I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but I thought that was good because they thought maybe I was a stronger.
Was this a lottery?
No, it's not. Well, I don't know. I don't know how they do it.
Well, how did you submit to be on the open mic?
I spoke to Mike Clark, who's Lenny Clark's brother, and then he referred me to the pharmacist. Have you ever heard of that comedian?
No.
Artie January.
Oh, I've heard of him. I didn't know he was the
they
pharmacist.
call him he's a pharmacist by day and a comedian by night.
I thought you were saying he like sells drugs to all the other.
He could. I don't know. But anyway, all that to say that I, was emailing him and he said, I think it was October 14th. I think it was exactly October 14th. I'm very good with dates. No, but he just said, okay, show up and whatever. And so I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be that they just randomly make the list. I kind of feel like they don't, though. I don't know.
I know Gary Goldman recently tweeted that you should try to go last because
Everybody's so drunk.
Doing well with a fatigued audience is a way to get stronger.
Oh, that's a good one.
He specifically in his tweet credited the Comedy Studio, which was during his time in Cambridge, but now in Somerville. So now I know for a fact that all these Boston people who are following comedy, Gary Goldman, are going to be on shows at the Comedy Studio, and like 6 people per lineup are going to be asking to go last.
Oh, I get it.
The Goldman has told them to. I think if you're... it goes both ways because some shows are more designed just to bring in like 10 or so comics and then hope that they buy stuff. And it's more out of respect that they let people go up earlier so they can like go get on with their lives.
Yeah, go to another gig.
But like shows like, for instance, where you'd be headlining, it's more important to go last. Mm-hmm. There's an argument over whether or not taking the bullet, which is going first for the lay people, is a punishment. Like I wouldn't, if I were running a show that I cared about, I wouldn't want someone who I'd be worried would lose the audience to go first. Because that would set a pretty bad tone. but some people view it as like a style because you're going in cold, and if the host does like 5 or 10 minutes, then you're not even going in like all the way cold either.
That's true.
Like I've done the show at Capo in Southie a few times, and that's a good opportunity for a younger person to get up with some real heavy hitters because it's a good mix. Will Noonan, who runs it, is a local legend and a very good guy. So he'll every time I've done it, he's put me up first, but he's like, yeah, you don't need to worry because I do like 10-15 minutes to open it up, and then so it's not like I'm going in completely cold. I have a sense of the idea what the energy in the room is like.
Right. Well, last year, and I'm doing it again this year. Last year I was at Mix 360. That's the Old Town Line. Do you know where that is?
The town line closed?
Well, the town line turned into Mix 360. It's still a bowling alley on one side and like
I
a
know
club on the other.
My friend has dragged me to that place. It's pretty awful. Go on.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to go along with that because I'm going to be working there next month. So anyway, so I was the only female comedian out of the 5 of us. And they put me first, which I was surprised at just because I would have put me in the middle somewhere just because I was a female, like just shake it up. But, and so thankfully I did well, but it is a little intimidating to go first. But then, like I did well and then I was done. And
You could just sit back and enjoy.
Exactly.
You get out of your own head. It's
exactly.
Nice.
So there's advantages to all of it, really.
To clarify, I have nothing against that establishment specifically. Just
Thank you.
clubs give me immense anxiety. Although we've ordered food there many times and the food is great.
Oh, you have it delivered?
No, the club has like at the bar. You
Oh,
can order
yeah. Okay.
food. And they have a workaround for the fact that you're not allowed to smoke indoors. They have like a fully screened off outdoor area with heat lamps, so
Nice.
it feels like you're not going outside. If you're a
No.
smoker, you can enjoy a nice cigarette.
Nice cigarette in
You know,
February.
now that I'm talking about it, I don't think I hate that place that much. I'm gonna go back.
Why don't you come see me on October 10th?
October 10th. That is the day of. I think that might be the day of the race. But if I'm still,
It's a Thursday.
Oh, it's Thursday.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's Thursday night. Tickets are on sale. Eventbrite.
are you sure? Because I feel like 7 days after a Saturday.
Is it 12?
Is it 12?
5
You're
plus
right.
7
Okay,
is 12.
I can't do math.
Then
I just
19,
drank
then
this long
26.
coffee. How come at Starbucks you have to
Ooh,
say the
let's go.
size in Italian, but if you do your entire order in Italian, they get annoyed?
Did you do your entire order in Italian?
No, I just have a strong hunch that if I ordered fully in Italian, they'd get annoyed, but they make me say the size in Italian? That's rude.
So what is that? Is that a grande?
That's a venti.
Oh, a venti. And what did you get?
This is just cold brew, but it actually doesn't make shit for sense because if you order a tall, you are A, speaking in English, so uncultured, and B, a liar. And then if you order a grande, that's the medium, but like it just means large, and I guess large is a subjective term. It's up to interpretation. And
That's
then
true.
so then you're and you're putting a lot of trust in a corporation to determine what exactly large is.
So this is this new thing that
So
they're
now you have to order
promoting.
the specific weight
Oh God!
venti.
What? This is their new thing, right? Their cold brew, whatever.
Oh, it's
or
been
no?
around for a minute.
Oh,
I think Dunkin' Donuts has had it for less time, but I think even that has been close to 3 years now.
am I that out of it?
I don't know,
Wow.
maybe you just don't follow coffee very much. I rarely go
I'm
to...
a former coffeeaholic. I don't drink coffee anymore.
Oh, I'm really bad. And I take Vyvanse, too, which for some reason makes me crave more coffee, even though it's...
What's a Vyvanse?
Vyvanse is like... it's a ADD medicine similar to Adderall, but the side effects are less severe, so I prefer it.
Ooh, that sounds good. I'll have to ask
Oh,
the
yeah.
pharmacist to get me some.
I don't think you can specifically ask the pharmacist.
Oh, I can't?
Maybe if he's corrupt.
Nah, he's not corrupt.
He's corrupt.
Never mind.
We don't want to drag Artie's good pharmacy.
No,
name
we
on the-
do not. No, he's a great guy.
Yeah, no, I generally don't go to Dunks or Starbucks often. I'm kind of a coffee snob, and also just in general like to support more local businesses because they need it more.
So where do you go?
I like to go to the Block Cafe in Union Square. Unfortunately, in East Somerville, where I live, there's no good options for coffee.
Oh, I'm
There's
sorry
this
to
one
hear that.
place called the Ola Cafe, but they suck. It's just like overnight Lavazza coffee.
Do you have a coffee maker at home?
I do have a French press and an AeroPress.
Whoa.
The AeroPress is good for when you're in a pinch.
Okay.
And I occasionally I'll try to buy beans at George Howell's, pretty good.
Okay.
And places like Barrington and a Bourbon coffee, which is I don't care for them because they're always closed, even though Google says they're open.
I kind of like that you're a coffee snob.
Uh,
I think it adds to your character.
oh yeah, totally.
You know, you're not just getting your dunks and going here and there. You know what I mean? I
well,
like
I'll
it.
settle for it in emergencies.
Well, of course.
Like I'm drinking Starbucks right now because they're opening a Cafe Nero, which is still a giant chain, but it's less of a giant chain than Starbucks.
Where?
That big construction thing, basically across the street from Starbucks. They're opening
Oh,
Cafe
is
Nero.
that right? There's going to be a coffee shop there?
Yeah, Cafe Nero has more of like you can hang out there for an extended period of time
Oh.
vibe.
I like that.
When I was living in Melrose, I would often take my computer to La Cuchara and like do work there. That place is great.
That's
Place has
another
some of the
great,
best.
great restaurant. Yeah,
And,
there's so many
they're
great
very great
restaurants.
food, but even if you just want coffee, that place has some of the best, just like regular coffee that I've ever gotten at an iced coffee place. But it's all the way out in Melrose, so most of the
I know,
snobs in
right?
Somerville and Cambridge don't know about it. Chibo also is amazing. Iced
How do you
coffee.
take your coffee?
Usually iced black.
Ice black.
If
No
I go
sugar?
to if I go to Dunkin' Donuts, I'll put cream in it because it's so bad that I have to water it down.
Yeah.
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 And if I'm in a real pinch where I have to go to like Cumberland Farms, I'll also
Ooh,
put
boy.
cream in it.
You'll put cream in the Cumberland Farms, too?
No, the complete smoke and mirror is the idea that Cumberland Farms coffee is somehow especially iced, is somehow worse than Dunkin' Donuts. They are of very close quality, indistinguishable.
And do you have a Cumberland Farms near you?
No, just sometimes when you're out and about and you get stuck in Southie or something.
Yeah. Do you have a Uber to your nights, or do you drive all over the place?
I don't actually have a car, although I'm pretty close to buying one.
Ooh, what are you going to buy?
Probably a Subaru Crosstrek. That's kind of what has.
That's what my husband has.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's a
he
good
loves it.
car. It's good for New England. Good
Yeah,
for going
yeah.
on the road. It's like I'm not gonna buy a car and then have stressful experience in the summer.
Right.
I think like Subarus and Hondas are the two that mechanics say that they see the least.
Yep. We have two Subarus. We love them.
And Toyotas are pretty good too. But I definitely, my dad is like, I don't know if it's because he's a Republican, but he will always buy an American car, even though it will fall apart incredibly fast and give him all sorts of problems. Like he
Yep.
had a Mercury Mountaineer, and then when that like fell apart, like the power steering would just randomly shut off and like really dangerous shit, like not just like inconvenient shit. He sold it for like nothing and bought a Ford Edge, which is basically the closest existing thing at the time to a Mercury Mountaineer. And then that car started falling apart. The brakes would barely work.
Right. Like he's suffering. He's like,
I was helping my sister move, and I was like, Dad, the entire drive back from New York, the brakes on your car were like barely working. We almost got in like 4 accidents. He goes like, oh, was there any water on the road? I was like, it should still work if there's water on the road. This is a bad car. So then that fell apart after less than 5 years of him owning it, and then he bought another Ford Edge. He bought a 2019 Ford Edge.
oh my God. Yeah, my father was the same way. He I don't think he was a Republican, but he always bought American. We always had Ford Galaxy, Ford. I don't know. All
Well,
sorts of
a Toyota is
LTD.
is a more American car than a Ford.
Really?
Yeah, because Toyotas are made in America, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
They're a Japanese brand, but their entire, any Toyota you buy in America was made probably in San Antonio or Georgetown, Kentucky. And all of the parts are manufactured in America, most of them at least, whereas almost all of the parts in a Ford were shipped in.
That's crazy.
So the idea that they're purely American
is false.
Yeah. Well, most of the actual like metal and material and stuff is from
So you mentioned that your father is a Republican. What are you?
left leaning.
Okay.
I mean, I don't, I don't want to sound like a broken record of someone of a white straight male my age, but I don't care for the over push of political correctness. Although I'm like such a contrarian that now I think like complaining about political correctness is itself very annoying. I think someone had described the recent Dave Chappelle special had fake controversy, where no one on either, it was Tim Dillon, who's very funny comedian. He has a great Twitter presence. And he said, like, we're on day 5 of the fake Chappelle controversy, where no one on either side really cares about this issue.
No, it's true. It gets exhausting. It gets to the point where I can't even like listen to I don't know. I just have to kind of block it out.
Yeah, it's pretty typical of my age.
Oh, yeah.
I believe in all like civil rights. I'm a fan of free education and healthcare and all that. I don't think you should take away all the guns. Maybe the big ones. I don't know.
Yeah.
I fired an AR-15 once. It was pretty fun.
Kevin Quigley, everybody, you are listening to Open Mic. It is it was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for
good.
having me.
Good.
And make sure to log on to www.melrosecomedyevent.com. October 5th, we got our big show.
And thank you to our executive producer, David Galini. Good night.